Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So excited to be with you, and I'm extra excited that you have an opportunity to hear today from one of my great friends, Jeremie Fagnan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, he is an extremely successful entrepreneur in a very short period of time. And we actually work off the same business platform. And so I asked him to come in today and talk to you about how to stop drifting. I actually was recommended the book Outwitting the Devil by Jeremie and by Napoleon Hill. It is fantastic. You got to pick it up. And really the main concept of the book, there's so many great tangibles, but the main concept is just about how people drift through life. You know, I believe that a lot of people, they have good intentions. They wake up in the morning, they want to have a great day, maybe they're back on track, and then by halfway through the day or, you know, later in the afternoon, they're drifting. You know, they don't have a lot of purpose in their life. They have this go with the flow mentality. They want to just see how the day goes. I think it's because, and you'll probably agree with me, Jeremie, is they lack purpose. They lack having a plan or a strategy to get to where they want to go. If you don't have a plan or a strategy to execute, we drift. And so we're going to talk today about the 4 main tips that I believe will help you to stop drifting and start to have purpose and direction and a plan and a strategy for your life. So let's get into it. Number 1, design your life on paper. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about this? Jeremie, by the way, he is the god of understanding how to make a plan and execute it. In 4 short years in our business, he has built an agency that earns over $250,000 a year. And he did something that a lot of people don't do. And I believe, would you agree that this is probably, you're gonna give the tips, which everyone's waiting for.
Yeah.
But this is one of, so step 1, design your life on paper. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so just you guys can have a little bit of a background on me. I'm very, very introverted by nature. In fact, I've always struggled with a little bit of a stuttering impediment. And so for me to walk in a group of people, I've never been the most dynamic. I've never walked in there and can kind of schmooze a room. I'm always kind of that awkward guy in the corner that has to ease my way into conversation. So when I got into business, I needed to find a superpower. And for me, it wasn't necessarily talking to people like I mentioned. It was, I had to get super clear on why I was doing this, why I wanted to be an entrepreneur, because it's not easy, right?
No,
you would agree,
not.
it is not easy. It's one of the hardest things that you will ever do. And I was an athlete growing up, and that was hard, but this is a whole new level. And so if there's one thing that was kind of my demise as being an athlete, is I never took goals serious enough. I never took visualization serious enough. So when I started in business, I knew that I needed to finally take this serious for the first time in my life. And when I got started in business, I knew nothing about business, just so you guys know, nothing about the financial industry, none of that. But I knew that I wanted to win. I wanted to be somebody. And so when I started, I wanted to design my life on paper for the sole purpose of I needed an anchor that could dig super deep into the ground. So if I had days of doubt, if I had some insecurities and just I was thinking about quitting and going back to my comfort zone, I needed something that was gonna ground me deep enough into the ground that I was never gonna quit. And it started with that. Yeah. And I heard this concept of write 101 goals list down, a bucket list. And so I took out a lined sheet of paper, I dug it up deep in my mom's basement, found a lined sheet of paper, and I started writing goals down. If time and money weren't an issue, what would I want in life? And it was hard.
I agree with that. I actually have one, and I find to get to 101 is challenging, but would you agree over the years it got easier? Yeah, because you stretched those visions and those dreams.
Totally, because most people we think so small when we've never done this before. And so this is an exercise that helps you think bigger, it helps you to stretch. And I remember I was on goal about 56 and my mind went blank. You know, it's like how many watches can I write down? How many more cars can I say that I want? Because our mind has never been trained to think bigger. But then I cheated. I went on Google and I typed bucket list ideas. You know, and it just started. It helped me think of more things that I wanted to accomplish. Just some charities that I'm super passionate in, and just some things that I want to accomplish as a family and business and life, and it expanded, and it got to a point where 101 was super easy. Now it's 250. I think I have. Wow. I have written down, but. That's really where it started.
That's amazing. Just take the time, you guys. Take the time to start to dream, man. 101 list, I think I'm so with you. In the beginning, it becomes kind of material. And then once you get past that hump, it's like you really start to dream of things that where you could really go and change the world. All right, so that's number one. Number two, categorize them into your core principles.
I built myself a goals binder, and so basically my life is in this binder. I call it my life Bible. It's not the Bible. That's another important piece of my life, but it's my personal life Bible, where really anything that I want to accomplish in life is in this book, and I take it with me everywhere. I mean, if you see me on a trip, it's with me at all times, and in fact, if it's not, because I've read it so many times over and over, it's actually memorized. And so if my binder's not with me, I can just rip through them in my head really quick because it's fully memorized. But I understood that once we start having a family and kids, our priorities start to kind of narrow in on just a few specific things. And so for me, faith is super important. Obviously, family is super important. My business is very important. My health is very important. And then just like personal, having fun, going out. And so I have 4 core areas of my life that I focus on. Anything out of my 5 core areas, it's not really of importance. I'm really not going to spend a whole lot of time there. And so from that 101 goals list, or 150 or 200, however many you get to, and this is a living and breathing thing, by the way. You don't just do it once and never do it again. I revamp the 101 every year, every month, sometimes every quarter. I'll go and revamp this goals list, but I picked it apart into those 5 different categories. Just to kind of help me get really more clear on what am I hunting down in this period of my life, instead of it just being just a giant list.
I love that. As you were speaking, I was thinking, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're an employee, or, you're working for someone else, that's okay. You don't have to be in business to take part in writing a 101 list or getting very clear on all the, I like to call them the 4 F's, family, faith, fitness, finance, whatever kind of is important to you, your core principles. This can be applied even if you aren't an entrepreneur. And I think it really is a game changer when you start to kind of hone in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also add, do this as a family. My wife and I sit down probably once a month, and we just go through this list, or we'll go on MLS and just look at homes, and we'll just dream together, right? We do this. My daughter's only 8 months, but we're gonna start doing that with her. I'm sure you've done it with your 3 kids. It's super powerful. And for your kids, it helps them learn how to dream and just start to create in their mind of what's possible. Because I'm telling you, as soon as we get into the world as we know it, high school, college, it's funny how just our dreams start to shrink, right? We get kind of put in this bubble of, okay, go find a job, and just like, that's it, work this for 30, 40 years, and hopefully you'll end up in a spot that you want to be. Unfortunately, that's how most people live their life. And I made a decision super early on. I was not going to drift. I needed to have a plan and a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, with my kids, I actually just finished completing another round of vision boards, and I'm going to do another video on that another time. But man, creating a vision board with your kids, getting them on board with your family's goals, all of that, amazing exercises you can do to include your children in your plan, in your purpose. That's fantastic. Number 3, get specific with a goal. I love this. And we were talking about this before we started videoing, and just how, you got to have a date. So why don't you tell us a little more about that?
You need to be as specific as you possibly can, because you want to fill whatever's important to you in your subconscious. It's automatically going to find a way to get it done. I don't know how it works that way or why it works that way. I just know that it works. Okay, I'm not some science guru. I've done some things from experience with goals, and this stuff has really worked. I know that the subconscious mind only recognizes present tense. And so whenever I write my goals down, I don't just say Hawaii or Mexico. I say, I am going to Hawaii by, and I set a specific date. Why? Because your subconscious needs specificity, and it needs present tense. It only recognizes present tense. So I start all of my goals with I am, as if I've already achieved the goal. Instead of me kind of hoping and wishing and wanting to achieve a goal, it's I am, like as if I've already achieved it.
Yeah, I have that on my phone. It says, I'm so happy and grateful that I am. And then I have my goals there by a specific date. So I'm on track. This is exciting. And I think sometimes, just to add to that, is people focus a lot on the how. And it's almost like we stop dreaming. We stop thinking of what we could achieve because we're so focused on how we're going to get it. Guys, the subconscious doesn't need to know how. You just got to put it out there. You got to have, And I love, if you could just share with us that Hawaii story you told me. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, so every year our firm runs a Hawaii contest. And so they take, the top 500 agencies to Hawaii every single year, all paid for. It's a world-class event. And when I started at 22 in business, this was a goal of mine, was to qualify for Hawaii. And keep in mind, I was brand new. I did not really have an agency at the time. Didn't know anything about money, like I mentioned, but I knew that I wanted to qualify for Hawaii. It was a big deal. I know that once you qualified for Hawaii, you really started to rise up with our firm. And so in my goals book, I put, I am qualifying for Hawaii by November 2018. Crazy. I didn't know the time frame on really how long it was supposed to take. I just said, let's just say 3 years. And I wrote that goal down. But within my goals binder is I also have pictures underneath every single goal. And so I pulled 3 pictures of Hawaii off of Google, just random pictures. I think it was one resort and then like the beach and then the sand. And it's just, as I read the goal, I can kind of visualize myself achieving it. This past year, our agency was finally in a position to qualify. Unfortunately, we qualified. It was an unbelievable trip. But I noticed before we left, I should have probably just checked the resort that we were going to. And the resort that we were going to just so happened to be the exact same picture I pulled from Google. Like out of all the resorts that I could have pulled from Hawaii, it was the exact same resort. And I could not believe it.
And you know what's crazy is the poster they had for the contest was even that same picture that he had in his binder, right? It is amazing when you focus on something and you don't forget the how. Just put it in front of you, set the date, speak in the present tense, and man, it's amazing what can start to unfold.
So true. More people need to learn to tap into their subconscious. Again, me being introverted, very introverted. I think way too many people spend time on building themselves a perfect plan. Should we have a plan? Absolutely. Life is always going to get in the way. It's never going to go as planned, so to speak. We need a plan, but most things will never go as planned. But if our reasons are strong enough, I'm telling you, we're going to find a way to get it done. It's just most people do not spend enough time here. And how long does it really take to work on this stuff? Half hour a day, 10 minutes a day? And most people just kind of put it on the back burner. It's only the most important thing I believe that we'll ever do in our entire life.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that's point number 3, you guys. I know you're getting some value from this. Number 4, I love this. This is probably one of my favorites, is you got to add sound. You got to add color. You got to add the senses, right? How it feels, or the smell, the touch, right? And so we were actually just talking about his new car. You got a Tesla, and I can only imagine that you went and you looked at them and you saw how they felt, right? How they drove. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, and while we're on the Tesla topic, I've been in Tesla dealerships for the past 6 years of my life. Every time I see one, I walk in. I've probably been inside of them hundreds of times, and it's finally come to fruition. So that's what we're talking about here is start putting yourself in position as if you've achieved that goal. So in my binder, every goal, like I mentioned, has pictures. But you can even take it a step further. Some people within my organization, they've even built a PowerPoint for themselves, and they call it the fire pit. And they just have a PowerPoint going, flowing. There's music involved. There's sound. So you involve all your senses. Again, all we're doing is programming the subconscious with specificity. The more specific you can be, the better. With anything you want in life, you can do this exercise, and I'm telling you, it's crazy. I've achieved 25, 30 things in my binder that without it, there's just no way I would have been aware enough to.
Yeah, so like one of your goals might be to own an ocean property, right? Listen to how the ocean sounds. Those are just little things, right? Where you really get those senses involved. But hey, at the end of the day, those are the 4 to kind of avoid drifting. Would you probably agree, Jeremie, that you can have your goals binder. I have one too. But would you probably say, to kind of sum it all up, the key, the main ingredient, after you've been specific, after you've gotten your senses involved, you got, the 4 F's, all these things, that it's important to read it every day, right? You don't just make the binder or create the PowerPoint and then just kind of flick it on or open up the book every, once a month.
No, everything of importance, you guys, we need repetition. And so just like when I played baseball, I took thousands and thousands and thousands of swings. You can't just take a couple swings and play in the big leagues. It doesn't work that way. It's the same thing with our goals. Our subconscious needs reps. It needs to know, it needs to be reminded every single day that, hey, this is important to me. Right? Like Hawaii, this is important to me. This charity, this is important to me. My family, this is important to me. So we have to remind ourselves of it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people put this on the back burner. It literally takes me 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night to go through my full binder.
Yeah.
It's morning and night. Like it is clockwork. It doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m. and if I have not gone through my goals binder yet, I have to go through it. Why? Because now it's become a habit.
Yeah.
It's a habit of mine. And I was telling Melissa off camera, it's now memorized.
Yeah.
And not to brag, it's just because I've read it so many times, it's like a song. You listen to a song on the radio over and over and over again, eventually you're just gonna memorize it without even knowing that you're actually memorizing it.
Yeah.
It's not like I tried to memorize this. It's just I've read it so many times that if it's not with me, I can still rip through it in my mind and start to visualize some specific things that I'm really hunting down.
I completely agree. And so there you have it, you guys. You got to read it morning and night. And then my final thought would just be stay consistent, right? We sometimes write down things, we write down goals, we write down dreams. It doesn't happen right away. Just like Jeremie's story of Hawaii. He said to qualify in 2018, it took a year, right? He's spoken as though it had already happened. I'm so grateful that I qualified for Hawaii November 2018 and then a year later, right? And so I think sometimes what I observe from a lot of people that I'm surrounded by is they do things, but they don't do it long enough. And they might do it morning and night and they do it for a month and then it kind of falls off. And so just keep stoking that fire, keep with these habits, and you do it long enough, yeah, you memorize it and you know it off by heart. And thank you so much, Jeremie. You've given me a lot to think about. I got the binder, I got things, I'm putting it out there. But I know that I could definitely get better, as I'm sure many of you watching can. So those are the 4 tips, you guys. Stop drifting. You deserve to have joy in your life. You deserve to have these goals met. You deserve to have everything that you could ever possibly imagine to come to reality in your life. And so thank you so much for taking the time. And guys, make sure to go like and subscribe and share with anyone who needs to see this, because most people in life, as the book says, actually 98% of people are drifting in life. I think we all can agree most people we know are drifting. Let's go help them out. Let's go give them solutions. And thank you for tuning in.